Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. You can't even really call it news anymore. It's some kind of Lucy in the sky with diamonds scenario on display every single day. Yesterday, last night, the president of Ukraine showed up in the Congress wearing a green sweatshirt and cargo pants for maximum disrespect and demanded the United States continue to spend more on his country's border security than we spend on our own. That actually happened. It was a pretty cheeky performance if you think about it. But like Sam Bankman-Fried before him, Zelensky put a salesman's gloss on what otherwise might look very much like a scam. So the tens of billions of dollars you'll be sending me is not charity, Zelensky explained. It's not a gift. It's not like the $20 you gave the homeless guy at Union Station this morning for a quart of vodka. No, it's not that at all. This money, Zelensky said, is, quote, an investment. Ooh, an investment. So what exactly are the terms of this investment now that we're talking finance? When do we get our dividend checks? Well, Zelensky didn't specify that, though at one point in his speech he did provide a hint. Are the tens of billions of dollars you're sending me with no audit and no concrete proof of what I'm actually doing with it, will all that money be, quote, enough? Zelensky asked rhetorically. Answer? Not really. Not really. In other words, the return on our investment in Ukraine will be more pitches for more investments in Ukraine. Give me money so I can demand more money. That's what Zelensky promised us last night. And under certain circumstances, that might actually be fine. If nothing else, Zelensky is quite an audacious young entrepreneur with the kind of pluck and fast-talking shamelessness where you think, this guy's either going to wind up in prison or very rich, and maybe both. And there are times when you might want to throw a kid like that a few bucks just to see where it goes. You don't know. But unfortunately, this is not one of those times. The United States is flat out of money, and not just in some abstract PowerPoint presentation kind of way where we show you graphs of the national debt, and then we all pretend to be shocked and horrified. No. The United States is broke in a real way, meaning we can no longer afford to take care of our citizens.
Oh, snap.
For example, 15 million Americans are about to lose their health care coverage under Medicaid. Now, these are people who got coverage during COVID, but will now lose that coverage thanks to a provision in the $1.7 trillion spending bill that's about to become law. As CNBC reports, governors of various states have informed the Biden administration that the cost of keeping all those people on Medicaid is, quote, too high. And it is high. Undoubtedly, it is high. How high is it? Well, over the last 3 years since COVID began, the federal government spent about $100 billion on extra Medicaid payments to Americans. That's a lot of money. How much is it? Well, it turns out that $100 billion is roughly what Congress has sent to our fast-talking Ukrainian friend in the sweatshirt in less than a single year. Just for comparison, just so you know what the priorities are in Washington. Your health care is just too expensive, sorry, and your border is too. Can't afford it. But for the strong man who runs Ukraine, no cost is too high. That's real. Does that frustrate you? Does hearing the details infuriate you as a citizen? Imagine if you went to Congress to plead your case. Maybe you showed up in a sweatshirt to tell them what you think. I'm an American citizen, you might say. I've lived here my entire life. I've paid taxes. I've followed the law. I've supported the system my grandfathers built because I believed in that system. And now, because corrupt ghouls like Janet Yellen at the Fed so completely devalued the U.S. dollar and so completely hollowed out our economy, I can no longer afford to go to the doctor as an American citizen. Please help me. So if you showed up on the floor of the House of Representatives wearing a sweatshirt and said that, what kind of response do you think you would get?
Seriously?
Would the response look anything like this?
I assure you that Ukrainian soldiers can perfectly operate American tanks and planes themselves. Thank you for both financial packages you have already provided us with and the ones you may be willing to decide on. Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way.
We're handling your money in the most responsible way. Take our word for it. Take our word for it. Ho, 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 ho. They laugh and they clap like seals. But here's the interesting thing. Almost every person in the room clapped like a seal. So no matter what that man said, send me more money, I command you, send me more money, we're taking care of it the most responsible ways. They applaud, all of them, almost like they have to. Now, there are 435 members of the House of Representatives, and they're Republicans and Democrats, and famously they don't get along and they don't agree on anything. They can't even pass a budget because they disagree on everything, very bitterly. And yet, when a foreign leader shows up in cargo pants to tell them lies and give them orders, they all applaud. That's pretty weird behavior in a democracy if you think about it. The fractious debate we hear so much about doesn't exist. And in fact, looking at the screen last night, it didn't really look like a democracy, to be honest. It looked like this.
Известно, она наша партия. Именно так и поступает.
Oh, yes, good point. Good point, sir. Ooh, we're so pleased you're here. Throw your foreign flag on the dais and we'll applaud more. That's honestly what it looked like last night. You gotta clap, you can get in trouble if you don't clap, so everyone just claps all the time. Clapping is mandatory as long as Zelensky's speaking. Now, there were a few who didn't obey. That would include Matt Gaetz of Florida, Lauren Boebert of Colorado. And when they didn't stand up and applaud, they found out the hard way what happens to people who dare not to applaud. NBC News took off right after them. That was the headline for NBC. Its House historian, Michael Beschloss, declared this, quote, "For any members of Congress who refuse to clap for Zelensky, we need to know from them exactly why. We need to know why." Ooh, thought crime alert. You've been reported as not applauding. Explain yourself, plebe. And then Beschloss went on television to drive home the point. Our sources have reported you are not clapping. Watch this.
And I think the other thing I'd like to ask is the number of members of Congress, almost all Republican, who did not show up tonight or who showed up and refused to clap. I'd like to know why that was for two reasons. Number one, you're a public servant. We're allowed to know those things. You're supposed to tell us if you're serving in Congress what the reason was. You know, do you love Putin, or are you just opposed to democracy, or is there something else?
Come on now, dog. We have a right to know why you didn't clap. We have a right to know your thoughts. You thought you were a free person, able to make decisions for yourself. You could love or hate whoever you wanted in a free country, but no! Michael Beschloss has a right to know why you feel the way you do. Do you love Putin? Why wouldn't you clap for a man who banned a Christian denomination, a man who arrested priests, raided monasteries, seized churches, outlawed opposition media outlets, outlawed political parties that oppose him, threw his primary political opponent in jail? Why wouldn't you applaud for a man like that? Do you love Putin? Are you opposed to democracy? Explain yourself. That's what he's saying. That's what they're all saying. It's absurd. What they're describing is the opposite of democracy. There's no democracy in Ukraine, obviously. Banning a Christian denomination? Shut up! But he did. So why all the hysteria? You got two people who didn't clap for a foreign dictator, and Michael Beschloss gets red in the face. Why? Oh, almost everybody clapped for him, but a couple people didn't, and Michael Beschloss can't handle that. What's going on here? Is it possible that the more ludicrous the lie they tell you, the fewer questions they can tolerate about it, the less dissent they can put up with? Because they fear the whole edifice might crumble if they allow one person to ask one reasonable question. It's possible that's what's happening. Remember when Joe Biden told us about Nord Stream? There were two stories. The first story was Joe Biden promised to blow up Nord Stream, the pipeline that brought natural gas from Russia to Western Europe. He's going to blow it up. Do you remember that? You're not allowed to remember it, but we remember it, and we saved the tape. Here it is.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly? since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Yeah, so he said it on tape. I'm going to do to that pipeline what I did to Corn Pop at the pool at Wilmington. I'm going to take a chain to it.